The crystal wine glasses clinked as my mother-in-law raised her hand. "A toast," she announced, her voice carrying across the mahogany dining table, "to my son's exciting new chapter." 20 pairs of eyes deliberately avoided meeting mine. I'm Lexi, and this was the moment my 15-year marriage officially began to end, though not in the way they expected. "Landon," Kimberly continued, "has finally found a woman worthy of the Underwood name, someone who understands ambition." She smiled at Sophia, who sat in what used to be my chair, wearing a dress that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. I remained standing in the corner, where I'd been helping the catering staff. Old habits die hard, even when you're being divorced. "Mom, please," Landon mumbled, but there was no real protest in his voice. There never had been. "Oh, come now," his sister Savannah chimed in, swirling her wine. "We're all thinking it. How many charity galas did we have to endure where Lexi couldn't even discuss the market? Remember that time she asked what hedge funds were?" They laughed. I smiled, remembering that day 8 years ago. I'd gone home and made my first $1 million investment decision. "I just think," Kimberly pressed on, "that it's time we acknowledge the elephant in the room. Landon needs a partner, not a housewife." The word dripped with disdain. I watched Sophia preen, her corporate polished smile gleaming. She'd been Landon's work colleague for 6 months. Now she was wearing my ring. "Mom's right," Landon finally spoke up, his voice stronger now that he had backup. "Lexi, we need to talk about terms. The lawyers can wait until Monday," I interrupted softly. The room fell silent. I rarely spoke at these gatherings. "Tonight's about celebration, isn't it?" Kimberly's eyes narrowed. "Well, yes, but—" "Then let me help in the kitchen. The staff seems short-handed." I turned away, hiding my smile as Savannah muttered something about no class. In the kitchen, I pulled out my phone and sent a quick text to Derek. Time to start. Execute Plan A. My daughter Aurora found me there 10 minutes later. At 16, she saw everything with devastating clarity. "Mom, you don't have to stay. We can leave." I hugged her, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo. "Sometimes, baby, you have to stay just long enough to watch karma arrive." "What does that mean?" "It means your mother isn't as helpless as they think." I straightened my simple black dress, the one Kimberly always criticized for being off the rack. "Did you know that while I was playing housewife, I was also playing the market?" Aurora's eyes widened. "What?" "They thought I was reading recipe blogs. I was reading prospectuses. They assumed I was watching cooking shows. I was watching market trends." I smiled, checking my phone as Derek's reply came through. "They never asked what I did with the household budget surplus I managed every month. Never questioned why I insisted on managing our accounts myself." "Mom." 15 years I sat quietly while they mocked me, called me simple, worthless. I showed her my phone screen, a confirmation of ownership transfer. What they didn't know is that I now own the bank that holds their mortgages, the startup that's about to hire Sophia. I own 40%. Your aunt's real estate empire, built on loans from my shell corporations. Aurora's jaw dropped. "Holy shit." "Language," I corrected automatically, but I was smiling. "Want to watch what happens when the worthless housewife decides to stop playing nice?" From the dining room, we heard the first signs of chaos. Phones buzzing, urgent conversations starting. Kimberly's voice rose in panic. "What do you mean, called in? They can't just call in the loan." I took Aurora's hand. "They're about to learn something important, baby. The thing about quiet people. We hear everything. We see everything. And sometimes—" I squeezed her hand as Landon's voice joined the growing chaos. "We own everything." "Should we go back in?" Aurora asked, a mix of worry and excitement in her voice. "No need," I said calmly. "The show's just beginning, and we have front row seats." 8 years earlier, I was sitting in a coffee shop pretending to clip coupons while actually reading about Series A funding rounds. That's when I first met Derek. Mind if I sit here? He'd asked, gesturing to my table's empty chair. The cafe was packed with the lunch crowd. Everywhere else is full. I nodded, moving my household budget spreadsheet aside. He glanced at my laptop screen as he sat down. Interesting reading, he said quietly. Most people don't study venture capital reports over lunch. I quickly minimized the window, but he held up his hands. I'm a corporate lawyer. That's actually my firm's report you're reading. That chance meeting changed everything. Over the next hour, Derek explained more about startup investing than I learned in months of research. When I told him I had $50,000 saved from budget management, his eyebrows shot up. That's a decent seed investment, he said. But why are you hiding it? I stirred my cold coffee. My husband's family. They have expectations about who should handle money, who's smart enough to invest. And you're not on that list? I'm the housewife who can't tell a stock from a bond. I smiled bitterly. At least, that's what they think. Derek leaned forward. Want to prove them wrong? That afternoon, we set up my first shell corporation. Within a month, I'd made my first investment in a promising biotech startup. By year's end, that $50,000 had turned into $200,000. My phone buzzed, pulling me back to the present. Derek's message read, "You're not going to believe who just applied for funding from us. It's Sofia Hernandez." I smiled, remembering how my portfolio had grown. Every snide comment at dinner parties had fueled another investment. Every dismissive wave from Kimberly had pushed me to study harder, move smarter. "Mom?" Aurora's voice came from my study doorway. "Dad's here. He wants to talk." I closed my laptop. Let him in. Landon walked in like he still owned the place, though we'd moved out weeks ago. "Lexi, what did you do? Mother's bank is calling in her loans, and Savannah's crying about foreclosure notices. Is that what brings you here? Not checking on your daughter?" He ran his hands through his hair, a nervous tell I knew well. "This isn't you. You don't understand what you're doing to the family." "Family?" I stood slowly. "Like the family that planned my replacement over Sunday dinners? That family? It wasn't like that. Wasn't it?" I pulled out my phone, showing him an email. "Your mother's bank? I bought controlling interest 3 years ago. Remember when you laughed about me reading banking newsletters? I was actually reading about acquisition strategies." His face paled. "That's impossible. You don't have that kind of money." "I have exactly $147 million in liquid assets, Landon. Would you like to see the statements?" He staggered back. "You're lying. Remember that tomato garden I started? The one your mother mocked because real ladies don't dig in dirt?" I smiled. "It paid for our daughter's college fund. Every vegetable I sold at the farmer's market went straight into tech investments. While you were laughing at my little hobby, I was building an empire. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me? Or would you have run to Mommy with the news?" His phone buzzed. He checked it, and his face went even whiter. "Sophia's job offer. It was withdrawn. The company's board felt she wasn't a good fit," I said softly. "I should know. I owned 40% of the shares." "Lexi, please," he whispered. "We can work something out." I walked to the window, looking out at my garden. "For 15 years, I watched you choose your family's approval over my dignity. I learned something important, Landon. Power doesn't have to shout. Sometimes it just quietly tends its garden, waiting for harvest time. What do you want?" "Nothing." I turned back to him. "That's what I was worth to you, remember? Now you get to feel what nothing feels like." As he left, Aurora appeared in the doorway again. Dad looked scared. "He should be," I said, picking up my phone as another message from Derek came through, "because this is just the beginning." The charity gala buzzed with Silicon Valley's elite. I adjusted my designer dress, the first one I'd ever bought for myself, and watched Sophia work the room. She hadn't recognized me when she'd brushed past earlier, too busy networking to notice the nobody she'd replaced. "Ms. Thompson?" A young assistant approached me, I smiled at my pseudonym. The board meeting is ready to begin. I followed her to a private room where 12 executives sat waiting. Ralph, the CEO of the fintech startup I'd invested in, stood to greet me. "The mysterious Sarah Thompson, finally in person," he said warmly. "Your investment saved us last quarter." I took my seat at the head of the table. "I believe we're here to discuss a new hire. Sofia Hernandez?" "Yes," Ralph nodded. "Impressive resume. Goldman Sachs, McKinsey. And yet," I opened the file before me, "3 companies she's worked for have faced SEC investigations within a year of her departure." The room grew quiet. I continued, "Nothing directly tied to her, of course, but patterns are interesting things. Mom?" Aurora's voice crackled through my earpiece. "Grandmother's here at the house, with Dad." I excused myself, stepping into the hallway. "I'll be home in 20 minutes. Don't let them in." "They're already inside. Dad still has a key." I ended the call and returned to the boardroom. "Meeting adjourned. Mr. Black, please hold off on Ms. Hernandez's offer letter. I'll be in touch." The drive home was quick. I found Kimberly pacing my living room while Landon sat with his head in his hands. Aurora watched from the stairs, phone ready to call security. "Breaking and entering," I said coolly. "Not very elite of you." "Don't play games," Kimberly snapped. "What have you done to our accounts?" "I haven't done anything. The market is simply adjusting." "Adjusting?" She laughed shrilly. "My credit cards are frozen. Savannah's beach house is being repossessed. Landon's firm lost 3 major clients overnight." I poured myself a glass of water. "Sounds stressful. Have you considered downsizing? I hear clipping coupons helps with budgeting. You vindictive little—" "Mother," Landon warned, finally looking up. "Please." "No, let her finish," I said. "I've listened to her for 15 years. What's one more insult?" "We made you," Kimberly hissed. "You were nothing before us." "You made me invisible," I corrected. "And invisible people see everything. Like how you leveraged the beach house against the main property. How you've been shifting funds between shell companies. Amateur ones, by the way. Did you know I own shares in all of them?" Aurora descended the stairs, standing beside me. "Grandmother, I think you should leave." "Aurora, sweetie." Kimberly's tone turned saccharine. "You don't understand what your mother is doing to this family." "I understand perfectly," Aurora replied. "I understand who taught me about strength, and it wasn't you." My phone buzzed. A text from Ralph. "SEC flags in Sofia's background check, withdrawing offer. Want us to tell her tonight at the gala?" "No," I typed back. "Let her enjoy her evening. Tomorrow will be soon enough." Landon stood suddenly. "Lexi, please. What do you want from us?" "Want?" I smiled. "I want you to understand what it feels like to be powerless, to watch everything you took for granted slip away, to smile through dinner parties where people talk about you, not to you." "You're destroying us," Kimberly whispered. "No," I said softly. "I'm teaching you. The lesson is simple. The woman you thought was beneath you now owns everything you thought was above me." After they left, Aurora helped me make tea. "Mom, are you okay?" "I'm fine, baby." I stirred honey into my cup. "Just thinking about karma." "What do you mean?" "They spent years treating me like I was nothing. Now they're learning that nothing can be very expensive." My phone buzzed again. "Derek, Sofia just announced her new job at the gala. Should I tell Ralph to speed up the withdrawal notice?" "No," I replied. "The lioness doesn't need to roar. But sometimes—" I looked at Aurora, who was watching me with a mixture of awe and concern. "It pleases her to show her teeth." The dominoes fell one by one, each crash echoing through their perfect world. I watched it all through security cameras and financial reports, sipping tea in my new office while their empire crumbled. "Your ex-mother-in-law is in the lobby," my assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "She's demanding to see Sarah Thompson." Tell her Ms. Thompson is in Singapore. I smiled, watching Kimberly's frustrated pacing on the monitor. And Janet? Call security if she doesn't leave in 5 minutes. My phone lit up with Savannah's name. I let it ring. She'd left 12 voicemails since her beach house foreclosure notice arrived. Mom? Aurora walked in, dropping her school bag. Aunt Savannah's crying outside my classroom again. I put down my tablet. What did she want? To know if you talked to her? She said something about her real estate license being under review. Aurora sat across from me. Are you going to help her? The same way she helped me when your father's family mocked me at every holiday? I pulled up an email. Look at this. Last year, she used insider information to close 3 deals. Illegal, but she thought she was untouchable. And now? Now the ethics board has an anonymous tip. My phone buzzed. Derek. We received a legal inquiry about ownership of the bank you control. Guess who hired an investigator? Let me guess, I replied. Landon's new fiancé. Bingo. Want me to shut it down? No, let her dig. Sometimes the best trap is the truth. I heard shouting from the lobby. On the security feed, Kimberly was waving papers at the receptionist. These loans were approved, she screamed. You can't just change the terms. I pressed the intercom. Janet, remind Mrs. Underwood that loan terms always included a review clause. The bank is simply exercising its rights. Aurora watched the screen. Dad's firm is laying off people today. I know. I pulled up another report. 3 major clients pulled their investments this morning. Apparently, they lost confidence in the management. Because of you? Because I showed them the same financial records your father's been hiding. He's been moving money between accounts to hide losses, just like his mother taught him. My phone lit up again. Sophia this time. I answered on speaker. Hello? Is this Sarah Thompson? Her voice was sharp, professional. I'm calling about my position at Vertex Tech. Ah, Ms. Hernandez. I heard about the withdrawal of your offer. Unfortunate. There must be some mistake. I already announced the position at the gala. Yes, that was presumptuous of you. The board hadn't finalized their decision. A pause. Do you know who I am? Better than you think. How's the wedding planning going? The line went dead. I looked at Aurora. Your father's new fiancé just learned an important lesson about counting chickens. Mom? Aurora's voice was quiet. Are you enjoying this? I considered the question. I'm enjoying the justice. They thought I was nothing but a housewife who couldn't understand their world. Now they're learning that their world was built on my foundation. My phone buzzed again. Landon. Lexi, please, he started before I could speak. The firm is collapsing. Mother's about to lose everything. Savannah's facing an ethics investigation. Even Sophia's job. Karma's a bitter tea, isn't it? This isn't you. You're not vindictive. No, I agreed. I'm methodical. Every investment, every shell company, every loan. I built it all while you were laughing at my gardening and coupons. What do you want? I want you to remember this feeling. The helplessness, the panic, the knowledge that someone else controls your fate. I watched Aurora's face as I spoke. I want you to understand that power isn't about who shouts the loudest at dinner parties. After I hung up, Aurora touched my hand. Are you going to take everything? No, baby. Just enough to teach them respect. I showed her another email. Besides, the real lesson's still coming. What do you mean? Your grandmother just hired a private investigator to look into Sarah Thompson. I smiled. Wait until she discovers who really owns her world. And then what? Then, I said, watching Kimberly finally leave the lobby, we'll see who's really worthy of respect. The mediation room felt smaller than I remembered. Landon sat across the table, flanked by his mother and their lawyer. Sophia hovered near the window, her designer outfit slightly wrinkled. She'd been wearing the same clothes for 3 days, since losing her job. Derek sat beside me, a thick folder in front of him. We'd rehearsed this moment for weeks. Let's be reasonable, Kimberly started, her voice lacking its usual authority. We're still family. Are we? I asked softly. When did you decide that? Before or after you planned my replacement? Their lawyer cleared his throat. We have a generous offer. Given the circumstances. Given what circumstances? Derek interrupted, opening his folder. My client's circumstances are quite comfortable. She's a housewife, Kimberly snapped. She has no income, no assets. Actually, I cut in, sliding a document across the table. Sarah Thompson would disagree. The room fell silent as they read. Landon's face went from confused to shocked to pale. This is impossible, he whispered. What? Kimberly grabbed the paper. Her perfectly manicured hands began to shake. This says, no, you can't be. Sarah Thompson, owner of Thompson Ventures? The same Sarah Thompson who controls your bank? I smiled. I am. Sophia stepped forward. You're lying. Sarah Thompson is a major tech investor. She's sitting right here, Derek finished. Would you like to see the incorporation documents? Or perhaps the ownership certificates for the startup that just rescinded your job offer? Kimberly stood up so fast her chair fell backward. You manipulative little... Careful, I warned. Your refinancing application is still pending. Would be a shame if it was denied. Mom, Landon pleaded, please sit down. He turned to me. Lexi, what do you want? I pulled out another document. Full custody of Aurora. No alimony. I obviously don't need it. You keep your trust fund, what's left of it, but your family's loans, they'll be transferred to less understanding banks. You destroy everything we built. Kimberly's voice cracked. You built nothing, I corrected. You inherited wealth and looked down on anyone who earned it. Like the quiet housewife who turned her garden money into millions while you mocked her vegetables. Sophia laughed suddenly, a sharp, hysterical sound. The board meetings. You were there, in the shadows, watching me fail. I was everywhere, I said. At every charity gala you thought was beneath me. Every business dinner where you dismissed me. I was building an empire while you were building guest lists. Their lawyer shuffled papers nervously. Perhaps we should take a recess. No need, Derek said. Sign the papers, or by Monday every loan comes due. Every investment gets pulled. Every credit line freezes. Landon reached for the pen with trembling fingers. The firm, my job. Keep them, I said. Consider it Aurora's inheritance. But remember this feeling. Every time you sit in your corner office, remember who really holds the power. Kimberly grabbed her son's hand. Don't you dare sign that. It's over, Mother, he whispered. She won. I watched him sign, then stood up. Aurora's waiting outside. I promised her ice cream after this. A celebration of sorts. You're enjoying this, Sophia accused. No more than you enjoyed taking my place. I gathered my things, though I suspect I'll enjoy it longer. At the door, I turned back. Oh, and Kimberly, those tomatoes you said were beneath your dignity, they funded my first $1 million investment. You might want to start gardening. I hear it helps in retirement. Outside, Aurora was waiting with a knowing smile. Did they sign? They did. I hugged her close. Ready for that ice cream? Mom? She looked up at me. I remember what grandmother used to say about you, that you weren't ambitious enough. And I think she confused ambition with arrogance. She squeezed my hand. You were just quiet about it. I watched through the glass as Kimberly crumpled in her chair. Landon stared at nothing, and Sophia frantically checked her phone for job listings. Sometimes, I told Aurora, the quietest person in the room is the most dangerous. They're the ones actually listening. The doorbell rang at 2 a.m. Through the security camera, I watched Landon swaying on my front porch, clearly drunk. Aurora, I called softly up the stairs. Stay in your room, okay? Is that Dad? I'll handle it. I pressed the intercom. Landon, go home. Please. His voice cracked. 5 minutes, that's all I need. I opened the door but blocked the entrance. He looked terrible. Unshaven. Wearing the same suit from 3 days ago. Mother lost the house, he slurred. The bank. Your bank. They wouldn't extend the loan. That's how foreclosure works. Savannah's license is suspended. Sophia can't find work anywhere in tech. It's like you've blacklisted our entire family. No, I corrected. I just stopped protecting you from your own mistakes. He tried to step forward, but I held my ground. We can fix this, he pleaded. Remember how good we were together before all this money and power? You mean when I was just the quiet housewife you could safely ignore? I never ignored you. Really? I pulled out my phone, played a recording. His voice, at a dinner party last year. Oh, don't mind Lexi, she's just the help. Another clip. My wife? She wouldn't understand business matters. You recorded everything? I recorded enough. I put the phone away. Every dismissal, every insult, every time you chose your mother's approval over your wife's dignity. He slumped against the doorframe. What happens now? Now? You go home, wherever that is these days. You show up for Aurora's event sober, or you don't show up at all. You learn to live without your mother's money, your sister's connections, or your ex-fiance's ambitions. And you? He looked up, eyes red. You just keep winning? I won the moment I stopped caring what you thought of me. Footsteps on the stairs. Aurora, despite my warning. Dad? Landon straightened, trying to look presentable. Hey, sweetheart. You're drunk. I'm sorry. Everything's falling apart. Aurora crossed her arms. No, everything's just becoming what it always was. Mom was always strong. You just never saw it. Aurora, I said gently, go back upstairs. No, she faced her father. You know what I remember most? When I was 12 at grandmother's Christmas party, you all laughed when Mom couldn't answer questions about the stock market. But that same night, I saw her in her office, making investment calls to Singapore. Landon blinked. What? She was playing you all. Every time you thought she was stupid, she was actually 3 steps ahead. And you never even noticed. My phone buzzed, a security alert. Landon, Kimberly's outside in her car. Did you bring her here? He looked away. She wanted to talk to you. Of course she did. I stepped back, reaching for the door. Goodbye, Landon. Tell your mother that if she steps on my property, I'll have her arrested for trespassing. Lexi, please. I closed the door, locked it, and activated the security system. Through the camera, I watched him stumble back to his mother's car. Aurora hugged me from behind. Are you okay? I'm fine. I turned to face her. But you shouldn't have come down. I wanted him to know that I understand, that I see you clearly, even if he never did. My phone buzzed again. Derek this time. Kimberly's lawyer reached out. They want to negotiate. No negotiations, I typed back. They had 15 years to treat me like an equal. Now they can live with the consequences. Aurora read the message over my shoulder. Will they ever recover? Maybe. Probably. But they'll never forget this feeling. I looked at my daughter. Strong, clear-eyed, unafraid. And you'll never have to pretend to be less than you are. Like you did? I didn't pretend to be less, I smiled. I just let them believe what they wanted to believe. Their arrogance built my empire. Through the window, we watched Kimberly's car finally drive away. Mom, Aurora said softly, I'm glad you're not quiet anymore. Oh, baby, I hugged her close. I was never quiet. I was just gathering evidence. The annual Tech Innovation Gala looked different from this side of the velvet rope. As the majority shareholder of 3 successful startups, I had a reserved table near the stage. Aurora sat beside me, stunning in her first formal gown. Is that Sophia? She whispered, nodding toward the entrance. I watched my ex-husband's former fiancé argue with the security guard, waving what looked like an old invitation. Her designer dress was from last season, Her perfect makeup couldn't hide her desperation. She's not on the list anymore, I said quietly. Funny how quickly doors close when you're not useful. Ralph approached our table, champagne in hand. Sarah, or should I say Lexi, still getting used to that. He smiled warmly. Your investment in our AI division paid off. The board wants to know if you'll consider joining officially. I prefer working from the shadows, I replied. But thank you. Mom, Aurora touched my arm. Grandmother's outside, too. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see Kimberly, looking smaller without her usual entourage. She caught my eye and mouthed, "Please." "Excuse me," I said to Ralph. "Family matter to attend to." Outside, the night air was crisp. Sophia had retreated to her car, but Kimberly stood her ground. "You've made your point," she said. "We're humbled, destroyed. What more do you want?" "Want? Nothing. I have everything I need. The house I raised my children in is being auctioned next week." "You should attend the auction," I suggested. "I hear the new owners plan to turn it into a community center. Something about giving back to the less fortunate." She flinched. "Landon's firm is barely surviving. He's lucky I left him that much. And Savannah, her children, are learning valuable lessons about earned versus inherited wealth." I stepped closer. "Like the lessons you taught me at every holiday dinner, every charity event, every family gathering where you made sure I knew I wasn't good enough." "We were wrong," she whispered. "Is that what you want to hear?" "I don't want to hear anything from you. Your words mean nothing. Your actions meant everything." Aurora appeared at my side. "Mom, they're about to announce the Innovation Awards." Kimberly stared at her granddaughter, reaching out instinctively. Aurora stepped back. "You taught me something important, grandmother," Aurora said coolly. "You showed me exactly what kind of woman I don't want to become." Inside, the announcer was calling for Sarah Thompson. My pseudonym, my power, my victory. "Enjoy the view from the outside," I told Kimberly. "I did, for 15 years. Now it's your turn." Back at our table, I accepted the Innovation Impact Award to thunderous applause. In my speech, I made sure to thank all the quiet investors, the overlooked visionaries, the underestimated dreamers. Sometimes, I concluded, looking directly at Sophia, who had managed to slip in and stood at the back, the most dangerous player in the room is the one you didn't think was playing at all. Later that night, Derek brought me the final papers. "It's done. The transfers are complete. Landon's firm now answers to an overseas board, your board. Kimberly's remaining assets are frozen. Savannah's house goes to auction next month. And Sophia? Blacklisted from every major tech company in the valley. Turns out your reputation carries weight." Aurora looked up from her phone. "Dad just texted. He wants to know if you'll consider a meeting. About the firm. Tell him my board doesn't negotiate with failed management." I signed the last document. Some lessons need to be permanent. "Was it worth it?" Derek asked quietly. "All those years of hiding, planning, waiting?" I looked at Aurora, who had grown into everything I'd hoped she'd be, strong, smart, and unafraid to show it. "Every second," I replied. They wanted an ambitious woman. I gave them a revolution. Through the windows, I could see Kimberly and Sophia getting into their respective cars, defeated. The mighty had fallen, and the quiet housewife they dismissed now owned their world. "Mom?" Aurora smiled. "I think it's time for your victory garden." I laughed. "You're right. After all, the best revenge grows slowly, doesn't it?" The garden bloomed under the morning sun as I pulled weeds from around my tomato plants. Aurora sat on the patio. College acceptance letters spread across the table. "Stanford or Harvard?" she asked, holding up 2 envelopes. "Your choice, baby. Both are paid for." "With garden money?" She smirked. "With revenge money," I corrected, smiling. "Much more satisfying." My phone buzzed. Derek. "Turn on the financial news." I pulled off my gardening gloves as Aurora brought up the stream on her tablet. A familiar face filled the screen. Landon, looking haggard, standing outside his firm's building. "You're announcing immediate bankruptcy proceedings," he was saying. "The board's decision was unanimous." Aurora muted it. "Are you okay?" "Surprisingly, yes." I sat beside her. "I didn't cause this one. He did it himself." "How?" "Tried to hide losses just like before, but this time there was no quiet housewife secretly propping up his accounts." The doorbell rang. Through the security feed, I saw Sophia, clutching a folder. "Let her in," I told Aurora. Time to end this story. Sophia had lost her polished edge. Her clothes were still expensive, but worn. Her eyes had lost their entitled gleam. "I have a business proposal," she said without preamble, dropping the folder on the table. "No." "You haven't even looked." "I don't need to." I gestured to the garden. "See these tomatoes? Each one grows exactly according to its nature. You can't make a tomato into an apple, no matter how much you pretend." "What does that mean?" "It means you're still trying to play power games you don't understand." I opened the folder, scanned it, then dropped it into my compost bin. "Your proposal is just like you, all shine, no substance." "You've destroyed everything," she whispered. "No," Aurora cut in. "You all destroyed yourselves. Mom just stopped cleaning up your messes." My phone buzzed again. Kimberly was calling. I answered on speaker. "Lexi?" Her voice was small. "Landon's firm. He's talking about jail time. Financial fraud tends to do that. Please. He's still Aurora's father. And you're still her grandmother. Funny how family only matters when you need something." Aurora took the phone. "Grandmother? Remember when you said Mom wasn't ambitious enough? That she was just a housewife playing at business? Aurora, please. I'm going to Harvard. Or maybe Stanford. Mom's empire is paying for it. The same empire she built while you were mocking her vegetables." Sophia stood, finally understanding. "It was never about the money, was it?" "No," I agreed. "It was about respect. About teaching my daughter that power doesn't have to shout. That strength doesn't need permission." "And revenge?" she asked bitterly. "Was just the harvest." I handed her a tomato. "Sometimes the sweetest fruits grow from the darkest soil." After she left, Aurora helped me tend the garden. "Dad wants to see me," she said quietly. "That's your choice. What about you? Are you happy? Really happy?" I looked at my empire. Not the financial one, but this. My garden, my daughter, my peace. I thought revenge would feel like victory, I admitted, but it feels more like freedom. Freedom from pretending to be less. Freedom from needing their approval. And love? Will you ever trust it again? "I trust you," I said simply. "I trust myself. The rest, well, that's what the garden's for. Growing new things takes time." My phone lit up with news alerts. Landon's arrest, Kimberly's final bankruptcy filing, Savannah's move to a small apartment. "Should we help them?" Aurora asked. "No." I picked a ripe tomato, its skin warm from the sun. "Some people need to learn how to grow their own food." She hugged me suddenly, fierce and protective. "I'm proud of you, Mom. Not because you won, but because you showed me what winning really means." "And what's that?" "Being exactly who you are, even when everyone tells you to be less." I looked at my garden, my daughter, my life, all grown from seeds planted in silence and watered with patience. "The best revenge," I said softly, "isn't serving it cold. It's serving it ripe when every flavor has had time to develop." Aurora smiled. "Like tomatoes?" "Like truth," I corrected. "And both are best grown in full sunlight."